you can't help it. He threw 14 passes and they won yesterday. I just don't understand. What do fans want in this guy?
Yeah, I don't know either, Jeff. I mean, people need to go back and look at the stats of quarterbacks in this league and good quarterbacks after 12 starts, and you'll see that there's not much of a difference between what they did stat-wise after 12 games and what Jalen's done. A good offensive line, if it stays healthy, maybe we can, if things fall right, maybe we can be in the mix come December. And I think that's where they still are because, you look at their schedule right now. It's not, I mean, they've gotten through the hard part.
Hope you caught the live Eagles postgame show after yesterday. Glad some smiles on the faces of the crew here on the JAKIB YouTube channel. Jody McDonald and Jeff Kerr, your Birds 365 guys on this Victory Monday. We are lucky to be joined by our buddy Paul Domowitch doing some work from Philly Mag these days. Got to watch the game from the comforts of his own couch yesterday, which is never a bad thing. Domo, what point did you say, all right, I can hit the man? If I got to hit the men's room, I can go now. This game is over. I don't have to worry about missing a big play.
Pretty early, yeah. It became pretty clear that even, as bad as the Eagles defense has been, that Detroit was not going to be scoring many points yesterday. So,
yeah, Paul, it looked early on that the Eagles really wanted to set the tone running the football. And I kind of knew this was going to happen when Boston Scott scored his first touchdown with ease. And it just seemed to snowball from there.
Yeah, I mean, they just decided, and rightfully so, knowing Detroit's defense, they were going to go out there and as long as they were, didn't fall behind early, they were just going to pound the ball. I mean, everything was, most of their runs were between the tackles with Scott, with Howard. They didn't use Gainwell much until the end, I think mainly because that's not what he does best. I mean, running up the gut. I mean, they wanted power runners, and it was just, I mean, it was a game we're not going to see again in our lifetime. 16 pass attempts. I believe the last time the Eagles had that few pass attempts was 1995. 46 rush attempts. I think 2013 was the last time they had that many. So, I think we're going to see a similar template, at least hopefully this week against another team that can't stop the run. But that's going to be dictated largely by whether the defense can slow the Chargers offense down. So, yeah, it was for all the people that have been after Nick to run the ball, that was he gave them what they wanted yesterday.
A little bit of a tougher task next week against Justin Herbert than they had against Jared Goff. Agreed on that front. But they did score a touchdown right off the bat the same way they did the previous week against the Raiders. Last week against the Raiders, they allowed the Raiders then rip off 30 consecutive points. This week, no such being the case. Jared Goff was a pretty damn good quarterback when he was with the Rams. I thought that they was starting off a pretty good career. I thought we were going to have this great comparison between Carson Wentz with the Eagles and Jared Goff with the Rams. Good luck. Neither one of them where they were to start their careers. What's happened to Jared? Was it just the fact that the Rams were that good and he had that many weapons around him? How has this guy gotten so bad so fast?
Yeah, I mean, the statistics were comparable, but when Sean McVay was that quick to make that trade, you knew, Sean McVay's pretty smart. Matt Stafford is just absolutely putting up numbers that are not of this world out there with the Rams now. And Goff doesn't have the cast he had with the Rams, which hurts. But he just doesn't even look like the same quarterback that he did when he was playing well with the Rams. I mean, yesterday, all he could do was throw the TJ Hawkinson or get sacked. The Eagles turned up the heat. They were more aggressive. Jonathan Gannon shook up his linebacking core. I mean, Eric Wilson was inactive. Alex Singleton, I think, played the 20 snaps compared to TJ Edwards and Davion Taylor. So they were much more aggressive, filling holes, not allowing people to get to the second level on them. And, Josh Sweat and the defensive line were just great. They played really well yesterday. Their best game of the season.
Paul, one of the interesting tidbits I have with the Lions team was I thought they played hard under Dan Campbell through their first 7 games, even with the record.
Yeah.
Yesterday showed signs of, I don't want to say they were checking out, but they're like, again, like, by the way, this was a football team that we know we had a chance to beat. Did it feel that way to you as the game was going on?
Yeah, Jeff, I was one of those guys. I like Dan Campbell. I've known him since he was a player. He's a tough guy. I think he's going to be a good coach. And for a long time there, this team was playing hard and they were playing well. They lost 2 games to good teams by 2 points, on last second field goals. And then yesterday happens and you get to the third quarter and it looked like they just, cashed out. There were some players that didn't look like they wanted to be there. I'm assuming that they're going to, a lot of them after when they look at the film, Dan Campbell's going to be reading them the riot act because I don't think this team, he's going to allow this team to quit on them. If it does, he'll find new players that won't quit on him. But for the Eagles, it was a good day to have Detroit do that and not bring their A game like they did against Baltimore and some of the other teams they've played tough.
Domo, one of the things I want to note from yesterday's game was despite Boston Scott stepping into the lead back role, and he looked pretty damn comfortable doing it, despite Jordan Howard coming out of mothballs in the practice squad, getting into the end zone twice, good for him. Eagles' leading rusher was still Jalen Hurts. He still led the way with 71 yards. And although you're going to look at his passing numbers and go, well, Jalen Hurts was along for the ride yesterday, he did nothing. Incorrect. His 71 yards on the ground were a key to the Eagles being able to win the football team. Will he get the credit he deserves for that?
Well, a lot of people don't want him to run. There are just a lot of people still that believe a quarterback, all you're going to do is get your quarterback hurt in that situation. I don't agree. It's one of his assets. It's no matter how much his passing game develops, and you would hope it's going to develop here because it still has a ways to go. His ability to do what he did yesterday still is something that very few quarterbacks in this league can do. Right now, I think he had 4 more rushing first downs yesterday out of those 70 yards. So that puts him. He's the only quarterback in the league with more rushing first downs is Lamar Jackson,
right?
And it's close. So you need that from him, especially now when it's, you still want to see him when he goes to extend the play to the right. You kind of like him to complete a pass now and then. We haven't seen that lately. I think yesterday it was kind of nice to. Him and Goddard developed some chemistry yesterday. I think Goddard finished with 6 catches. So there seems to be a comfort level developing there. But I haven't seen, the all 22 tape doesn't come out for a couple days. But you could see even on the telecast and the replays that Jalen missed some receivers occasionally. Like you could see that he should have been able to find some people open underneath that he didn't, or a check down. And that'll come. I think he's going to keep getting better. But back to your original question, Jody, that running ability is going to be important now. It's going to be important in week 17. It's going to be important next year if he's still the starting quarterback.
Yeah, Paul, I kind of want to elaborate on the Jalen Hurts thing. Like when I was going down social media in the fourth quarter yesterday, people were still criticizing this quarterback, and he was out of the game. They're like, well, they're running to disguise the fact he can't throw, or, it's his 12th career start. We're tired of hearing that. I'm like, what does this guy need to do? Like, he can't help it. He threw 14 passes and they won yesterday. I just don't understand. What do fans want in this guy?
Yeah, I don't know either, Jeff. People need to go back and look at the stats of quarterbacks in this league and good quarterbacks after 12 starts, and you'll see that there's not much of a difference between what they did stat-wise after 12 games and what Jalen's done. He's had some good moments, and he'll be the first to admit, and so will Nick Sirianni, that he's got a long way to go with regard to improvement. But I think that's knowing his intelligence, knowing his background. A coach's kid, and the offenses. He's played for 6 different offenses in 6 years. I think he's going to keep getting better. And I don't think we'll be seeing these same questions asked a year from now, assuming he's the starting quarterback that we're seeing now?
And another thing that I will give to Jalen Hurts credit, and also gives a little bit. I don't think yesterday was a game where everybody's going to say, well, he's our quarterback for the future. I don't believe that happened. But just keep this in mind. On several plays yesterday, they had him under center, and he actually faked the handoff. An actual play action pass, not an RPO, which is different, but an actual play action pass. Lo and behold, a wide receiver who's wide open that he delivered the football to without issue. They had not done that almost at all in the first 7 games. Everything's got to be out of shotgun. Everything's got to be an RPO. Actual play action passes work when you try them, Nick Sirianni. He did so yesterday, was successful with it, and Jalen Hurts did a good job of selling it, in my mind.
I mean, this offense is evolving, guys, and Nick Sirianni's trying to figure out what, like you do with every quarterback, what Jalen does best, what he's most comfortable with. You know, we saw the same thing with Carson. I mean, Carson fought on a lot of things he didn't feel he was good at or comfortable throwing. It took even the 2017 after he got hurt with Nick. I mean, they had to throw a lot out going into the playoffs before they realized this is what Nick can do. You know, Nick has a playoff for the ages because, you know, he was good at RPOs, which is ironic because he can't run. And people think you have to be able to run RPOs. But so it's Nick's still in that process of, and Jalen's still in the process of trying to get the two of them get on the same page and figure out how do you maximize his talents.
Well, Jordan Howard yesterday, I forget what the final numbers were. I think it was like 10 carries, 55 yards, something like that. And I'm thinking to myself, I think it was on his second carry. Really, Howie? It took you 7 weeks to promote this guy? Like, what were they doing?
I have no idea. I mean, he looked good yesterday. You know, I don't think Nick has until yesterday and I think it's the reason Boston Scott hasn't played a lot either is, you know, they bring power to the offense. And I don't think Nick had that as a high priority. I mean, he wants guys that can catch the ball out of the backfield. You know, Boston can, but it's not his strength. I mean, his strength is what he did yesterday, just pound the rock. Jordan Howard really isn't a very good pass catcher out of the backfield. So I think that's why those two guys were kind of like one wasn't being used and the other wasn't even on the roster. But I think yesterday they realized, well, especially with Miles out, you know, you can't do that with Gainwell. So at least one of them's going to see a lot of action here until Sanders gets back as the guy that takes the ball between the tackles.
Domo, Howie Roseman, not the most popular figure here in town. I know it was just 4 years ago that he won the Super Bowl, but he has fallen out of favor with most Eagle fans, which is not a surprise. I get a bunch of calls on WIP about fire Howie. Howie's got to go. I try and be balanced in my evaluation of Howie. I give him credit for what he does well, which is salary cap management and playing the salary cap game. I question Howie where he needs to be questioned, his ability to draft. Well, his strength of being able to play the salary cap game, he may have dropped the ball here. Dallas got to look very good yesterday since Zach Ertz left, and he is now the unquestioned TE1 and is getting that many more targets and making that many more plays. Every time he catches a ball, I hear a cha-ching in the back of my head that he's going to get paid, and he's going to be paid that much more. Did Howie Roseman drop the ball by not getting Goddard done to a contract extension before he traded Zach Ertz?
Well, he tried. So, and since we weren't in the room and I haven't heard the numbers, you know, we don't know what he was, you know, what their best offer was. My guess is Dallas and his agent realized that his value was only going to keep getting better, whether Zach stayed or left. And so it didn't benefit them aside from the fact that, you know, I mean, the main thing a football team has as far as the incentive to get a guy signed early, especially a guy with an upside like Dallas, is the fear of getting hurt. I mean, if Dallas tore his ACL, suddenly his value is not anything like it will be if he stays healthy and keeps playing like this. So, and I think Dallas just decided to roll the dice. He said, you know, I'm going to be very rich, whether it's here or someplace else after the season. And unless you're going to make me like an offer I can't refuse, which they didn't, you know, I'm going to walk away. And I also think, as good as Dallas is, this team's kind of in a transition here from a team that played a lot of 12 under Doug Peterson, and where Dallas had a big role and still will, but they just love those young receivers. And so you got to think ahead to where you're going to put your money in 2-3 years. So, I mean, they want to keep Dallas. I think they think he's going to be a very important part of this offense, but they weren't going to overpay him. And so now they wait until these season's over to get a deal done.
Yeah, speaking of the young receivers, Paul, Jalen Reagor, I thought was en route to maybe his best game in the NFL. Looked like he was going to have a promising day, then had the unfortunate injury. What did you like what the Eagles were doing with him prior to the injury?
Well, I mean, they got him in space and used him not like you'd expect. I mean, it was mostly as a runner, jet sweep, a couple of other plays similar to that. But that's how, coming out of college, you knew that was the best way to use Jalen Reagor. Just get him in space, bubble screens. He wasn't going to set records, running down the field, even though he has speed, even though that's one of the things that attracted them. He wasn't going to catch 10 balls a game unless they were like short bubbles and stuff like that. But that's how you want to maximize them. And, they started doing that yesterday, and then he got hurt. And I don't know the severity. I got a feeling it's pretty serious.
That is unfortunate because he did make a couple of good plays early in that game. All right. Want to flip it over to the defensive side of the ball, giving Nick Sirianni credit for showing his flexibility. Same thing goes for Jonathan Gannon. His defense looked way too similar week in and week out for the first 7 weeks of the season. He adjusted. He made some different reads into his defense yesterday, including bringing a blitz every once in a while, which they had done very little in the first couple of weeks of the year. We know that Philadelphia Eagle fans love the blitz. And even though none of the blitzers got home, it did open things up for the defensive linemen. 6 sacks yesterday. Should we be getting overly excited about this, or should we chalk this one up to, the quarterback, like the whole Lions team is not very good. Jared Goff can't get away from a rush. How excited should Eagle fans be with the 6 sack game yesterday, Domo?
Well, I mean, it definitely was a step in the right direction. They need that pass rush, or everything else falls apart, because the rest of their defense is not that particularly strong. I think we'll get a better gauge this week against a better offense on whether Jonathan Gannon intends to continue to be this aggressive, whether he's going to continue to throw in some blitzes, whether he's going to continue to have his linebackers attack more and try to get into the backfield. But we won't know until Sunday. I mean, against the Lions, I think he just felt we can do this, even if it backfires, even if some of this stuff doesn't work. It will be okay. But the Chargers are a pretty good offense. Justin Herbert is a lot better against the blitz than Jared Goff. So, but we'll see Sunday what Gannon does and how it works.
Paul, the Eagles decided to not play Eric Wilson yesterday. One of their big free agent signings, inactive, 8th game of the year. Anthony Harris was out yesterday, but Kayvon Wallace and Marcus Epps, they played pretty well. I know it was the Lions, but do you think we could see a trend here with some of these guys that they brought in this all season just not playing as the season goes on?
I give them credit. These are guys that the Gannon liked, and had an influence on how he's signing. And they haven't been playing well. Harris hasn't been playing well. Wilson has just stunk up the place. And they had no hesitation to sit him down. So I give Gannon a lot of credit for that. He realized I got to make some changes. So those were 2 good moves to make. There's a few other people that I'm waiting for him to kind of, Ryan Kerrigan's bringing nothing to the table. Guys like that, but the people you need to play well, Sweat, Cox played a little better yesterday. Derek Barnett played well. Even Davion Taylor. I mean, it's, if that kid can develop, and I still question that because he just doesn't have, as for all his speed, he's not a very instinctive player and didn't, he never played in high school. Wasn't much of a difference maker at Colorado. But maybe the light's going to go on here, and he's going to turn out to be a decent player for them. But yeah, I was happy to see those moves by Gannon.
Need your take on this one, Domo. You've been covering Eagles for a lot of years in locker rooms. Unfortunately, nobody gets in the locker room after the game anymore, so you can't get a feel on the players the way you used to. But I know that you've experienced this before. I say this all the time in all sports. If you're going to have a successful season, every team wants and needs a blowout win where you just have the game decided by 3/4, sometimes as early as half. I'd say by halftime, yes, I was pretty damn sure that the Eagles were going to win. But there's a juncture in the game where you go, all right, this one's over. And it allows the coach to use the guys who don't get a lot of time into a game, to get them out there, to get them starting. Football, it's snaps, NBA, it's minutes, baseball, it's at-bats, whatever it turns out to be. But it gives you the chance to use some guys because you need your whole team to be able to win. The Eagles got that yesterday. Am I overstating the case that this can be a positive when you have a game where you just stomp on the opponent and you allow everybody to contribute in some way, shape, or form? It helps you going forward. Do you think that's the case with the Eagle win yesterday?
I think it's helpful. I think it was helpful to get Minshew in for a few snaps. I also think, not many people have dwelled on the fact that this is a 17-game season this year for the first time ever. And I think you saw it in Dallas with the decision to not play Dak Sunday. Would they have in a 16-game season? Probably, because I think that calf injury is a little more serious than we think. But you've got to pace yourself. And when you have a game like this that affords you that opportunity without having to make hard decisions and sit guys down just for the sake of sitting them down and getting them some rest, it's very beneficial. And you're going to need, plus you never know who's going to get hurt down the road here. So I think it's good that, all of their backup offensive linemen got more snaps and some other guys. So yeah, it's definitely a plus.
Well, fans don't want to hear this, but I can tell how some players think sometimes. And if you look at the standings, J Mac and I were talking about this today, they are one game out of a playoff spot, and they own the tiebreaker against the team who has that terrible 7 seed in the NFC. Do you think this changes Howie Roseman's thinking this week in terms of, okay, maybe I might try to add somebody in here to make this roster a little bit better?
Yeah. I wouldn't think so, Jeff. I can't imagine who out there, he doesn't want to shake things up too much because it's such a remote possibility. I mean, but they went into this season with the attitude that initially I think they thought, well, okay, we're just going to completely rebuild. We're just going to, bite the bullet. Then they realized, we've got some, we've got a pretty good offense, a lot of offensive skill position people, a good offensive line if it stays healthy. Maybe we can, if things fall right, maybe we can be in the mix come December. And I think that's where they still are because, you look at their schedule right now. It's not, they've gotten through the hard part. So, if you're Howie, you're sitting there thinking you're going to be, you're going to have more days like yesterday than like the week before. So I'm sure his optimism right now is that they can contend for a playoff spot, but I don't expect them to make any moves before the Tuesday deadline.
Domo, Jeff Floyd just texted me and he said he wanted to remind you, it's not a rebuilding year, it's a transitional year. There's a difference. You got to make sure you get that right. I hope that Howie stays the course. I hope he still sells within the next 20 some odd hours. Trade deadline 4 p.m. tomorrow afternoon. A couple of guys I got no issues with if they move. Derek Barnett, no, he got a sack yesterday. First sack in 12 games for Derek Barnett. Way to go, Derek. See you later. Bye. If they can get a decent trip. And we had fun with this with one of Jeff's cohorts from CBS Sports last week, suggesting the Eagles could get a third and or a third that could elevate to a second for Derek Barnett. No chance, no shot. Yeah. But that's all. I digress. Derek Barnett, I would move. Andre Dillard, I would move. I would even be open to trading one of their cornerbacks because I know that's going to be something the team will be on the lookout for. Avonte Maddox played well yesterday, got the hit on the scoop and score. Steven Nelson has been really good all year long for the Eagles, and he was a really smart addition. Here's one of the places I got to give Howie credit. He waited. Guys like you and me and Def and Johnny Mac. When are they going to get another starting corner? But when are they all off season? How can they go into camp without they got Steven Nelson. They got him for a good price, and he's played really well. See you later. Bye. I trade him this week if they got the chance. Domo, I'm an all-sale guy. There's one thing to add players, which I don't think Howie's going to do. I think he's also negligent if he doesn't sell. Is he going to sell over the next day and a half?
Well, I don't know what you're going to get from most of those guys. Nothing that would. I mean, you're talking 6th round picks mostly. The only guy I thought that might have a chance at going here in the last few weeks was Andre Dillard, because I thought if a playoff team really fell into some problems at tackle, I mean, Dillard was an option, and so you might be able to get them to overpay. But other than that, their corners. I mean, Avonte Maddox is untouchable. That's the one guy you don't want to give up. A young guy that is playing well, that can play that slot or safety for the next 5, 6, 7 years. If you traded Darius Slay, it would be a spirit killer for that defense. I mean, he's just a guy you don't want. That would send the wrong message in the locker room. Steven Nelson, sure, but Steven Nelson you can get a 7th round pick for. Derek Barnett, what's he got? He's being paid $10 million right now. Everybody knows you're not going to re-sign him. He's not going to make a difference for a team this year, really. So everybody's probably saying, well, we'll get him on the back end when he becomes a free agent in March. So I just don't know I don't know what options they have there, Jody.
Let me give you a hypothetical. Let's say someone is desperate for a slot corner, and they offer you a 3 for Avonte Maddox. You pulling the trigger?
They're not going to offer you a 3, but if they did, I still wouldn't do it. I like this kid a lot.
Okay, good.
He just adds. I mean, not only that's a hard position to fill. Not everybody can play slot corner, and he just adapted well to it. He's got that short space quickness, that toughness to be able to play the run inside, and he's just the kind of guy you want on your team going forward. So I would. I mean, if somebody offered me a 3, maybe I'd think about it, but I'd probably say thanks, but no thanks.
Well, I'm looking at the state of the NFC, and I watch way too much football for my own good. But there are a lot of bad teams in this guy. Everybody wants to talk about the top-heavy teams. I'm looking at the Bears, the Vikings, the 49ers. There's just a lot of bad teams here. What if you're the Eagles front office? You got to be thinking to yourself, not for this year, but 2022, 2023. We could compete. Like, how do you think that shapes up that offseason going forward?
Well, I mean, you mentioned a lot of those teams, and I'm sure they're looking at that as well. I mean, these are the teams we could, get by to make, win that 3rd wild card. But I would hope they're aspiring a little higher, looking at Tampa Bay, the Rams. And typically Howie and Lori have done that going through the years, even when Banner was here. They look at the top teams and try to replicate them. And they've still got a ways to go, mainly because they've got to settle the quarterback position first, decide whether this is the guy or not. But there is some hope. But right now the NFC is a tougher conference than the AFC. So, but we're gonna learn a lot about this team in the next 3-4 weeks. I mean, that's when we're gonna find out what really is here, what they need to do going forward.
Domino effect question here. I don't believe Deshaun Watson is going to be traded to the Eagles over the next day and a half.
Right.
There's a small chance he could be traded. It's not going to be here to Philadelphia, but even that is a very small percentage. Deshaun Watson's not going to get dealt between now and 4:00 tomorrow, is he?
I can't imagine it. I mean, it's funny. Everybody that, like with Miami and Carolina, they're interested, but only if he settles the 22 suits against them. Like, that's not going to happen anytime soon. It's not going to happen next year. It's probably not going to happen the year after unless he wants to go bankrupt. So, I mean, I don't understand how anybody is close to trading for this guy.
Yeah, Paul, adding on with Deshaun Watson here, it just seems like, and yesterday was a perfect example. Like, Miami loses their 7th in a row, And the head coach, all he has to do is answer questions about Deshaun Watson. Like, they're not even answering questions about his team at this point. He goes, I actually think he got thrown a curveball in there because he was asked about his job. And he goes, well, I'm not really worried about that. Right now, I'm worried about getting my players better right now. But it just seems like this Deshaun Watson stuff has really clouded in what I felt was a talented Dolphins team all year.
Yeah, I agree. It doesn't do our profession. It doesn't help our profession when these are the questions that are focused on coaches in these press conferences or even, I mean, the people that we're asking, well, is Nick Sirianni on the firing line? I mean, come on. Nick Sirianni's not going anywhere right now. He's not going to go anywhere after the season. He's here for multiple years, at least 2. Same thing with Howie. I mean, Howie's job isn't in jeopardy right now, as much as everybody would like it, as much as he hasn't done a particularly good job since 2017. But people kind of get bored with what's going on, that they're covering a bad team, so they kind of change the focus to something else.
All right, Domo, last question. It's kind of a hypothetical look in a crystal ball one for you. And I thank the Eagles for not only winning yesterday, but getting to a blowout position where I actually could turn the game off or spend more time when I flipped to the red zone to watch a game. I did that yesterday, and lo and behold, here's Carson Wentz. Got the ball in his own end zone. He's trying to throw a left-handed pass out of his own end zone. What the hell was he thinking? Titans go ahead. Sure enough, Carson gets him back down the field. 8 of a big pass interference penalty, which was blatantly obvious. They just try not to tackle the wide receiver before the ball gets there, Mr. Defensive Back. But they tie it up, goes to overtime, and sure enough, Carson throws another pick in OT. He'd only thrown 1 pick all year, threw 2 from the fourth quarter on yesterday. But the most important stat for Eagle fans is he played every snap of the game again. So he's now played 99% of the first 8 games. So it looks like he's going to play 75%, but the Colts also lost, and now they're kind of buried in that division behind the Titans. They're still, I guess, in the wild card mix. Give me a percentage confidence level Carson Wentz is going to play enough snaps that the Eagles are going to get a first-round draft pick.
That he came back from that 2 ankle injuries was, I mean, I didn't expect that, and he didn't miss a game. I think he's going to play the 70%. I don't think that's going to be a question. I think the question is how high the pick will be. Indianapolis is I mean, Tennessee's a good team. I mean, Tennessee could end up in the Super Bowl, in my opinion. Probably not, but I mean, they're going to be a contender there for one of the final 4 spots in the AFC. So I think that pick's going to drop a little bit. I think probably Indianapolis is going to be like a 9-8, maybe even a 10-7 team. Might even contend for one of the wild card spots. So you're looking at more of a middle of the pack pick, but still 3 picks in the first round. One's going to be Miami, which is going to be very high, and the Eagles, probably somewhere in the 10 range. So, we get back to putting our trust in Howie. I know that's scary, but they damn well better be scouring and between now and the end of the college football season, and then the workouts and the combine, they better be doing their homework.
Well, I got one for you quick. So when Carson went through the end zone interception, I saw Rob Motti got everybody riled up yesterday. He said, "Oh, that was a smart decision because if he fumbles it, if it's a safety, they don't get the ball back." And I was like, he's not wrong in theory. And I was just like, okay, well, whatever. I'm not thinking that far ahead. But did you think that was the right decision?
No, I actually didn't see that part of the game. I forget what game I was watching at the time, but yeah, the thing with Carson is, I mean, everybody kind of is rewriting history here. Nobody questioned whether he could play, whether he's a talented quarterback. I mean, it was his decision to leave. He said, "I don't want to be here anymore," and so then and I fault him for that because he wasn't strong enough to deal with Philadelphia and everything that came with it. He looked over his shoulder at Jalen. All the things I thought would never bothered him. But as far as him being a quarterback, I mean, he's a Pro Bowl quarterback, and that he struggled like he did yesterday and made some stupid mistakes. surprises me more than the fact that what he's been doing lately and playing well there.
He did not play well late in the game yesterday, which caused the Colts to lose, which, by the way, Domo, they're 3-5. They're not getting to 10 wins. More like 8 or maybe 9, which keeps them in the wild card race. They're not getting to 10 wins.
Tennessee out of the way, though. They're 0-2.
They get to play Texas and the Jaguars, so there's some wins.
I'm taking. You got Jacksonville and the rest of that division. Who am I missing in the NFC? In the NFC South?
Houston.
Yeah. So there's some easy wins.
Okay, we'll see. I'll take the under 10, maybe 9, and I hope that's the case because it'll keep them in the race.
Oh, they play the Jets on Thursday,
get to 75% of the snaps. Domo, great stuff. Appreciate you coming on. As always, we're going to be tapping into you again soon enough. Thanks, brother.
Thanks for having me, guys. Take care.
Paul Domowitch doing works for Philly Magazine these days after covering the Eagles on the beat for a couple of decades. Always good to get Domo up with us here on Birds 365. He's Jeff Kerr. I'm Jody McDonald. We're coming back. More analysis on the Eagles' blowout. That's right, blowout win over the Detroit Lions yesterday. Keep it here on Birds 360.